Welcome, dear friend, as we continue this quiet journey together. Tonight is not about effort, not about striving, but about softening. You are here to receive something subtle and timeless, the gentle art of release, shared quietly across centuries by those who learn to rest within themselves. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to fix. Simply allow these words to arrive like a warm breeze at dusk. The stories you are about to hear are not meant to challenge the mind. They are invitations, quiet doorways that lead away from tension and toward ease. Each one offers a way to loosen the knots of worry, to untangle the habit of holding too tightly to thoughts, emotions, and expectations. In the teachings of the Buddha, suffering does not arise because life is difficult. It arises because we cling to outcomes, to identities, to what we fear losing. And so, over these peaceful hours, these stories gently illuminate how to loosen the hand of attachment and rediscover the peace that has never truly left you. As you listen, you may begin to notice small changes. Your breath becoming slower, your shoulders releasing their long-held weight, the constant inner commentary fading into a softer murmur, and then into silence. Allow yourself now to settle fully. Let your body be supported by the surface beneath you. Take one slow, unforced breath in, and as you breathe out, let go, just a little more than before. These teachings have a way of meeting us precisely when we are ready. Tonight, they meet you here. Let us begin with a quiet story about wealth and the unseen burdens it can carry. Long ago, a Zen teacher wandered from village to village with nothing more than a simple cloth bag at his side. He walked slowly, unhurried, his presence light and peaceful. Those who met him often remarked that despite owning almost nothing, he appeared deeply content, as if he were already complete. In one thriving town, a wealthy trader approached him. The man's robes were fine, his hands adorned with rings, yet his face was tight with worry. Dark circles beneath his eyes revealed many restless nights. "Master," the trader said with a respectful bow, "I have wealth, land, and comfort beyond measure. And yet my mind is never at rest. I live in constant fear of losing what I own. How is it that you carry so little and seem so free?" The teacher smiled gently and said, "Let us exchange what we value for just one day. At sunset, we will return everything." Curious, though uneasy, the trader agreed. From his belt, he removed a heavy pouch filled with gold coins and placed it in the teacher's hands. In return, the teacher reached into his worn bag and revealed a single jewel, a diamond, clear and radiant, catching the sunlight like a captured star. Its beauty was undeniable. The trader's heart leapt with excitement. This single stone was worth more than all his possessions combined. But as the hours passed, his joy slowly turned into dread. The diamond felt too precious to set down, too valuable to entrust to anyone else. Every stranger seemed threatening. Every shadow felt dangerous. His body tightened. His thoughts raced. He guarded the jewel constantly, unable to rest for even a moment. When the sun finally dipped low, the trader hurried back, his face pale with exhaustion. With trembling hands, he pressed the diamond back into the teacher's palm. "Please," he said softly, "take it back. The weight is unbearable." The teacher accepted the jewel calmly and returned the pouch of gold. As soon as the exchange was complete, a deep wave of relief washed through the trader's body. The teacher then spoke quietly, You were never burdened by the diamond. You were burdened by the fear of losing it. True wealth is not what you hold, but how lightly you are able to hold it, and how peacefully you can let it go. The Buddha taught that we only suffer when we cling, not because we have something, but because we grasp it as if it must never change. There is a gentle difference between enjoying and grasping, between appreciating and attaching. Everything in life moves. Everything shifts. Nothing remains fixed. And yet the ego seeks safety through control. It believes that if it gathers enough, more success, more love, more certainty, then peace will finally arrive. But this effort creates the opposite effect. The more we accumulate, the more we fear losing. The more tightly we hold, the more tension we feel. This pattern quietly appears in modern life. The achievement we once desired becomes a source of pressure. The relationship we cherish becomes heavy when we cling too tightly. Even comfort can turn into worry when we fear it slipping away. Zen reminds us, peace does not come from adding more to our lives. It comes from releasing what we no longer need to carry. As one Zen teacher gently observed, you are already whole, and from that wholeness, growth can happen naturally. Now, allow this understanding to settle softly within you. There is nothing you need to protect in this moment. Nothing you need to hold on to stress. And let the next story arrive when you are ready. This gentle paradox points us toward the middle way, a path that rests between careless detachment and painful clinging. It teaches us that we can care deeply, love fully, and engage with life sincerely without binding our peace to what cannot remain unchanged. The jewel in the earlier story is not just a stone. It is every gift life places in our open palms. Relationships, memories, achievements, moments of joy, even this fragile, precious life itself. These gifts are not meant to be gripped. They are meant to be received with gratitude, experienced with presence, and released with grace when their season naturally ends. When we hold too tightly, we quietly drain the joy from what we love. What we try hardest to protect becomes heavy. What we fear losing begins to control us. A gentle Buddhist teaching reminds us that suffering does not come from uncertainty itself, but from resisting the truth that uncertainty is woven into all things. The merchant's pain was never about the jewel's worth. It arose from his refusal to accept the vulnerability of holding something precious. Letting go does not mean becoming careless or cold. It means cultivating what Zen calls the beginner's mind, a state of openness that receives fully without demanding permanence. When our hands are relaxed, we can feel more deeply. When our hearts are unguarded, we can love more freely. Tonight, you might gently notice what you have been holding with tension. Perhaps it is security, a relationship, an expectation, a future version of yourself, or even an image of who you believe you must be. What would it feel like to appreciate these things without trying to control them? To allow them to exist without asking them to promise anything? As the Buddha quietly taught, what matters most is not how much we have held, but how deeply we have lived, how sincerely we have loved, and how gently we have learned to release. Now, let us move into another quiet teaching, a story about how suffering continues when we refuse to let moments complete themselves. A provincial governor once traveled to visit a respected Zen teacher. The governor was a man accustomed to authority, to being obeyed without question. His life was filled with decisions, commands, and control. As they sat together in the teacher's simple dwelling, tea was prepared. The governor spoke at length of his position, his responsibilities, his importance. The teacher listened silently, his expression calm, untroubled. As an attendant poured tea, a small insect suddenly drifted through the air and fell into the governor's cup. Instantly, the governor erupted in anger. His voice thundered through the room. He accused the attendant of disrespect and demanded punishment. The teacher lifted his own cup, took a slow sip, and spoke softly. "The insect followed its nature," he said. "The tea followed its nature. The cup followed its nature. None of them intended harm." He paused, letting silence do its work. "The moment has already passed," he continued. "The insect is gone. The tea can be replaced. Yet you are choosing to carry this moment forward. Why keep what is already finished alive in your mind?" The governor sat quietly, feeling the heat of his anger slowly dissolve. In its place came an uncomfortable clarity. His suffering had not come from the event, but from refusing to let it end. The Buddha once compared anger to holding a burning coal with the intention of throwing it. The one who is burned first is always the one who holds on. So much of our suffering comes not from pain itself, but from replaying it, retelling it, reviving it long after its natural life has ended. Small irritations pass through our days like brief weather, a delay, a careless word, a disappointment. They arise, linger briefly, and are ready to fade. Yet we often keep them alive by feeding them with attention. We rehearse conversations, revisit wrongs, and carry the residue of moments that no longer exist. Each repetition is like placing the insect back into the cup, again and again. A gentle Zen teaching reminds us that because everything is impermanent, everything is also possible. Even anger, even sorrow. When we stop breathing life into what has already passed, space opens naturally for peace to return. So tonight, if your mind drifts toward a small frustration from earlier, today you might gently ask yourself, is this moment still alive, or am I carrying its shadow? Let it rest. Let it complete itself. Remain here. And now, we continue with a story about discovering abundance where loss once seemed to live. A poet monk lived quietly at the foot of a mountain, his home a small hut surrounded by bamboo. He lived simply, finding joy in the rhythm of seasons and the smallest movements of nature. Each spring, tender bamboo shoots appeared near his dwelling. He watched them daily, not with ownership, but with gentle wonder. One evening, after spending the day sharing teachings in a nearby village, he returned home to find the bamboo gone. The earth was disturbed, the shoots carefully taken. A visiting student, seeing this, became angry on his behalf. He demanded action. He demanded justice. But the monk only looked quietly at the empty soil. After a long moment, he turned his gaze toward the horizon where the sky was burning softly with color. "Yes," he said gently, "the bamboo is gone. But look, the sunset remains." In that moment, the teaching was complete. What we release creates space to see what cannot be taken. Loss only becomes suffering when we allow it to blind us to what still surrounds us. When we loosen our grip on what has been removed, we remain open to what continues to arrive: beauty, connection, breath, presence. As the Buddha taught, the more we let go, the more peace we make room for. Now rest here, allowing these stories to settle gently within you. Nothing is missing in this moment. Nothing needs to be held. Just breathe, and allow the night to carry you deeper into stillness. There is more than enough joy moving quietly through the world. It does not run out. It does not need to be guarded. A Zen teacher once spoke gently about the difference between reaching and receiving. When we reach, our hands close around a single thing, and in doing so, we unknowingly turn away from everything else. When we receive, our hands remain open, and our hearts stay available to whatever life is offering right now. The sunset was never missing. It was always painting the sky in silence. But anger had narrowed the student's vision, making beauty invisible. This is one of the quiet revelations of letting go. What can be taken from us was never the deepest source of fulfillment. The breath moving through your body, the rhythm of day and night, the changing seasons, the simple ability to feel wonder, these belong to no one. They arise from the same vast life that you are part of. A Zen master once taught that to walk the Buddha's path is to study the self. And to truly study the self is to forget the small self that counts gains and losses. When that narrow self softens, we remember the larger self, the one woven into all things. From this wider view, nothing is truly stolen. Everything moves through the same endless current of giving and receiving. One teacher of our time reminds us that in the end, only three things truly matter: how fully we lived, how deeply we loved, and how gently we learned to let go. The monk who watched the sunset lived so lightly that even loss could not touch his joy. His happiness did not depend on keeping anything. It flowed from his ability to appreciate whatever appeared. The student's anger was human, but it was small and tight. The monk's response revealed a wider way of being, one spacious enough to hold disappointment and wonder at the same time. Letting go does not mean ignoring harm or pretending pain does not exist. It means refusing to allow grievance to eclipse the quiet miracle that continues to unfold all around us. Tonight, if you feel something has been taken from you, trust, time, health, opportunity, gently lift your awareness. What colors are still moving across your sky? What beauty remains untouched by circumstance? As the Buddha taught, peace does not come from outside. It waits patiently within. Now, let us drift into another teaching, a story about perfection and the freedom hidden in beginning. A young sculptor once traveled far to a monastery known for its serene Buddha statues. Each figure seemed alive with stillness, as if carved not only from wood and stone, but from awareness itself. The sculptor sought out the elderly master who had created many of them. "Master," the young man said, bowing deeply, "I have studied form and technique. I have gathered the finest materials. Yet I cannot begin. I am afraid of failing, afraid that my hands will betray the vision in my mind." The master listened quietly, then led him to a forgotten corner of the workshop. There sat an old block of wood, dusty, plain, unremarkable. "What do you see?" the master asked. "Only a block of wood," the sculptor replied. The master placed his hand on it gently. "I have kept this for many years," he said softly. "When I was young, I imagined the most perfect Buddha. I waited for my skill to match that vision. And so, I waited. Years passed. My hands improved, but my idea of perfection always moved farther away. I became attached to what this would might become, and because of that, I could never touch it." Then the master looked into the young man's eyes. "This would taught me something important. Perfection is a beautiful prison. The Buddha is not hiding in flawless form. The Buddha appears the moment you make the first cut. Go," he said gently. Begin. Let the marble be imperfect. Only by starting can you discover what wants to emerge. So much suffering comes from our attachment to outcomes. We imagine a future that must be perfect before we allow ourselves to act. Perfection becomes a refined form of avoidance, a way to delay the vulnerability of being human, of being seen learning, failing, beginning. By setting impossible standards, the ego protects itself from humility, but it also blocks growth. This pattern appears everywhere. The story never written, the practice never begun, the conversation endlessly postponed, the life quietly waiting. We tell ourselves we are preparing, but often we are simply afraid. A Zen teacher once said, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few." When we let go of needing to be perfect, we become available to life again. The marble does not ask for mastery. It asks only for presence. Excellence is not born from waiting. It grows through engagement, through showing up as you are. Every master once stood at the beginning. Every work of beauty began as an uncertain first step. Now, let your mind rest with this understanding. There is nothing you need to finish tonight. Nothing you need to perfect. Simply be here, breathing, present, and allow the night to carry you gently into deeper stillness. When we release the need to be perfect, we finally give ourselves permission to be present. Tonight, as your body rests and your breath grows softer, you might gently reflect on something you have been delaying. A small beginning you told yourself must wait until you felt more prepared, more confident, more complete. What if readiness is not something that arrives first, but something that quietly grows through beginning? What would it feel like to take one small, imperfect step, to write a single unfinished line, to speak one honest sentence, to move forward without certainty? The Buddha reminded us not to accept truth simply because it is spoken, but to discover it through direct experience. Truth is something we live into, not something we wait to deserve. And so, as we continue this gentle journey, let us turn toward one of the deepest teachings of letting go, the practice of pure attention. Long ago, an elderly Zen master lay resting in his final hours. His breath was shallow and quiet, like wind passing gently through tall grass. Around his bed gathered his devoted monks, men who had walked beside him for decades, learning through silence, discipline, and compassion. As they felt his life slowly receding, a quiet urgency filled the room. They longed for one final teaching, something they could hold, remember, and carry forward. The head monk leaned close, his voice trembling. "Master," he whispered, "before you leave us, please offer one final truth, one teaching to guide us." The master slowly opened his eyes. He looked at each familiar face, seeing love, grief, and longing woven together. With great effort, he gathered his remaining strength and spoke a single word, barely audible. "Attention." The monks were startled. Surely this could not be all. No verse, no profound doctrine, no final explanation. The head monk leaned closer. "Master, is that all?" The old teacher nodded faintly. Still unsatisfied, the monk asked once more, "Please, could you explain?" With his final breath, the master whispered again, "Attention," and then he was gone. The monks were left in deep silence, not holding a concept, but facing an invitation. The Buddha taught that the present moment is the only moment that truly exists. It is the doorway through which all life flows. To let go completely is to release everything that pulls us away from now, the past that no longer lives, the future that has not yet arrived, and the endless commentary that stands between us and direct experience. Why is attention so difficult to sustain? Zen teaches that the ordinary mind moves constantly, from memory to imagination, from worry to planning, from desire to judgment. This restless movement creates distance. We live in thought about life instead of living life itself. The monks wanted something to preserve, something solid to grasp. But attention cannot be stored or possessed. It can only be practiced, moment by moment, breath by breath. It is the one thing that cannot be taken from us. And yet, it is the one thing we most easily give away. How rarely we offer full attention. While eating, we distract ourselves. While walking, we plan. While listening, we prepare our reply. While resting, we scroll. We are everywhere except here. The Master's final teaching pointed to what Zen calls just this moment. Not attention for something, not attention as a technique, but attention itself as the practice. When you are fully present while washing your hands, you are practicing the way. When you listen deeply to another, you are meditating. When you feel the breath entering and leaving your body, you are touching eternity. A gentle teacher once said the most precious gift we can offer is our presence. Presence does not need to be created. It is what remains when we stop running away from this moment. The practice is simple and also challenging. Simple because nothing is required. Challenging because it asks us to release our favorite escapes. As one teacher reminded us, wherever you go, there you are. The Master's final words were not about becoming something new, but about stopping and arriving. The deepest letting go is letting go of the one who is trying to let go. When attention is complete, there is no observer and nothing observed, only the quiet wholeness of experience itself. Tonight, as sleep approaches, you might offer your full attention to just one thing: the weight of your head on the pillow, the rise and fall of your breath, the distant sounds of night. There is nowhere else to go, nothing else to become, just this. Now, let us continue with a gentle story about acceptance and the art of contentment. Along a winding mountain road, a traveler once encountered a shepherd resting beside his flock. The sky above was uncertain, clouds drifting between sunlight and shadow. The shepherd sat calmly on a stone, watching his sheep graze. His presence carried a quiet ease, as if he were in no hurry to be anywhere else. The traveler called out, "What kind of weather do you think we'll have today?" The shepherd smiled warmly. "The kind I like," he replied. Puzzled, the traveler asked, "How can you be so sure?" The shepherd gestured gently toward the sky. "I learned long ago," he said, "that I cannot always get what I like. So I learned to like what I get." The traveler fell silent. Something simple and profound had been spoken. True contentment does not arise from controlling circumstances, but from meeting them without resistance. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering. Not caring, but demanding that life unfold a certain way. The shepherd embodied what Zen calls great acceptance, not resignation, but alignment with reality as it moves. When we stop fighting what is, we discover how much energy returns to us. Tonight, as you reflect on the day, its comforts and its difficulties, can you meet them with the shepherd's wisdom? What if peace is not waiting for conditions to improve, but is available right now through a softer relationship with what already is. As the Buddha taught, happiness does not depend on what you have or who you are, but on how you see. Now rest, and allow these teachings to drift with you into sleep. Yet with compassionate clarity. Be like the lion, not like the fox. The Buddha once offered a gentle image for this truth when he said that countless candles may be lit from a single flame, and yet the original flame is not diminished. In this way, compassion does not exhaust itself through giving. It becomes brighter. What this teaching quietly reveals is the deep difference between spiritual surrender and spiritual service. So often we confuse passivity with faith. We imagine that spiritual practice means waiting for life to change, waiting for help to arrive, waiting for someone else to act on our behalf. Zen teachings remind us that the ego prefers the path of least effort. It would rather receive than give, be supported rather than support, be rescued rather than respond. But true surrender does not mean withdrawing from life. It means releasing our attachment to outcomes while remaining fully engaged in compassionate action. To surrender is not to fall asleep to the world. It is to wake up within it. The misunderstanding is an ancient one. The belief that faith means stepping aside and allowing unseen forces to solve what we ourselves are meant to touch. Yet spiritual maturity invites us to recognize that we are often the very hands through which compassion wishes to move. Look gently into your own life now. Are there places where you have been waiting for someone else to build the community you long for, to begin the work you imagine, to offer the kindness you wish to receive? Zen wisdom helps us see the difference between victim consciousness and co-creator consciousness. The fox, by its nature, could not provide for itself and required care. The lion, with strength and capacity, gave freely. But human beings are not bound to one role alone. We carry intelligence, creativity, foresight, and the ability to care not only for ourselves, but for others who cannot do so in this moment. Awakening does not remove us from responsibility. It transforms how we meet it. True faith is not passive waiting. It is active participation in the web of interdependence that binds all beings together. At times, we are the fox, needing rest, support, and grace. At other times, we are the lion, capable of offering strength, guidance, or protection. Consider now those in your life who may stand in the fox's place through no choice of their own. Those facing illness, age, limitation, or sudden hardship. And then consider the ways you carry lion-like qualities, skills, time, resources, experience, or simple presence. Zen Master Dogen once taught that to study the Buddha way is to study the self, and to study the self is to forget the self. When the self is forgotten, we are naturally expressed through all things. This is the quiet movement from self-concern to selfless service that marks genuine practice. The man's transformation, from seeking to be cared for to recognizing his calling to care for others, reflects a shift away from using spirituality as a means of acquisition and toward living it as an offering. Instead of asking what practice can give us, we begin to ask what we can give through practice. In Zen, this is known as the Bodhisattva vow, the aspiration to awaken not for oneself alone, but for the benefit of all beings. This does not mean neglecting our own needs. It means holding them within a wider circle of care. The Buddha reminded us that when you light a lamp for another, your own path is illuminated as well. Often, fulfillment arrives not through pursuing our comfort, but through serving something larger than our personal concerns. This teaching gently invites reflection. Why do we practice? Are we seeking insight as a form of self-improvement? Or are we cultivating wisdom and compassion so we may respond more skillfully to the world's suffering? Sometimes we pray for provision. Other times, we are being asked to become provision. The correcting voice in the dream offered guidance without judgment. Misunderstanding was not failure, it was part of learning. Often, we must touch our own helplessness before we recognize our capacity to help. Tonight, as you rest, consider the gifts you carry, not only for your own safety, but for the welfare of others. Can you feel the difference between seeking what you can receive and discovering what you can offer? The Buddha taught that in caring for others, we care for ourselves, and in caring for ourselves, we learn how to care for others. Compassion flows naturally when we remember our shared nature. By becoming the lion when we are able, we help ensure that others may one day be lions for us when we truly need care. Now, let us continue with a gentle story, one that reveals the unexpected wisdom hidden in laughter and the suffering we create when we take ourselves too seriously. In a remote mountain monastery in ancient China, there lived a young monk whose dedication was intense and unwavering. Each morning before dawn, he rose for meditation, sitting perfectly still for hours. He studied the sutras with precision, memorizing passages, debating fine points of doctrine, and refining his understanding with fierce concentration. His fellow monks admired his seriousness. His devotion was unmistakable. One crisp autumn morning, while studying a particularly subtle teaching on emptiness, he encountered a passage that unsettled him deeply. The words seemed clear, yet their meaning dissolved the moment he grasped at it. Determined to understand, he marked the text and went to the master. The old teacher sat quietly in his room, sunlight filtering through paper windows, casting soft patterns on the wooden floor. The young monk bowed deeply and spoke with sincerity, reciting the passage and carefully explaining his confusion. The master listened attentively. Then, without warning, he smiled. The smile turned into gentle laughter, then deeper laughter, until his whole body shook with joy and tears streamed down his weathered face. The monk stood frozen. This was not wisdom as he expected it. Still laughing, the master rose and left the room, offering no explanation. For 3 days, the monk could not rest. He barely ate. His meditation scattered. Sleep came in fragments. The laughter echoed endlessly in his mind. Was he being mocked? Had his practice been meaningless? At last, unable to endure the confusion, he returned. This time, he spoke plainly from the heart. "Master," he said softly, "your laughter has disturbed me deeply. I cannot eat, sleep, or practice. Please tell me, have I done something wrong?" The master's expression softened. He invited the monk to sit and spoke gently. "My child," he said, "do you know your difficulty? You are worse than a clown." The monk was stunned. "How can that be?" he protested. "I have devoted my life to the Dharma." The master smiled. "A clown finds joy in making others laugh. When people laugh, his heart is full. But when someone laughs near you, you suffer. Tell me, are you not worse than a clown?" In that moment, understanding dawned. The monk saw how tightly he clung to being serious, to being respected, to being seen as wise. The laughter had not been mockery. It was delight, joy in the living paradox of the Dharma. He began to laugh. Softly at first, then freely, until joy filled the room. His laughter joined the master's from days before, and in that shared ease, understanding arrived without effort. Zen teaches us that wisdom often comes through unexpected doors: laughter, ordinariness, play. When we release our attachment to being understood, we become open to understanding. As you drift toward sleep, remember this gently. Where can you soften? Where can you allow joy to teach you? Now rest. The Dharma does not require strain. It unfolds naturally. When the heart relaxes. As he stepped closer to the tea stall, his eyes moved quickly, scanning the scene with suspicion, already measuring and judging what he saw. Without greeting, he spoke abruptly. "I am thinking of moving to this town," he said. "What is it like?" The Zen master looked at him quietly, listening not only to the words, but to the restless energy behind them. Instead of answering directly, he asked a simple question. "What was your old town like?" The man replied at once, as though the answer had been waiting for years. "It was terrible," he said, bitterness spilling out easily. "People were unfriendly and selfish. Neighbors were inconsiderate. Shopkeepers were rude. I couldn't stand living there any longer." The master nodded gently, his face calm and open, untouched by the harshness of the words. After a moment he said softly, "This town is very much the same. I do not think you would be happy here." Disappointment crossed the man's face. Without another word, he turned away and walked off, muttering that everywhere was probably equally unpleasant. Not long after, another traveler arrived at the tea stall. His presence felt different from the first, relaxed, curious, unguarded. His eyes moved slowly, taking in the sounds and colors of the marketplace with quiet appreciation. When he smiled at the master, the smile carried warmth rather than expectation. "I am thinking of moving to this town," he said lightly. "What is it like?" Once again, the master asked the same question. "What was your old town like?" The man paused, then smiled more deeply. "It was wonderful," he said. "People were kind and helpful. Neighbors cared for one another. The shopkeepers knew everyone by name. There was a true sense of community. I was happy there. I am only leaving because I feel called toward new experiences." The master's eyes softened. "This town is very much the same," he replied. "I believe you will like it here." The traveler bowed with gratitude and walked away with an easy step, already sensing friendship and possibility ahead. The Buddha taught that all that we are arises with our thoughts. The mind shapes the world we experience. In this quiet story, the master offered the same answer to both men, because he saw that their questions were reflections of their inner worlds. We do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. Some people encounter kindness wherever they go. Others meet resistance at every turn, even in the same places. Buddhist understanding explains that our habitual mental patterns become lenses through which reality is filtered. We notice what confirms our expectations and overlook what does not. The first traveler carried a mind trained to expect disappointment. His awareness searched for faults and found them easily. The second carried a mind inclined toward goodwill, and so connection revealed itself naturally. This does not mean the world is always gentle or fair. It means that the quality of our attention profoundly shapes how life meets us. As a Zen saying reminds us, wherever you go, there you are. No change of location could have healed the first man's suffering, because he would have brought the same inner weather with him. Yet the same truth holds hope as well. When we cultivate patience, curiosity, and appreciation, new possibilities quietly appear. Tonight, as you rest, notice the lens through which you tend to view your own life. Do you scan for what is missing, or do you remain open to what might be offered? As the Buddha taught, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. And now, let us move gently into another story, one that speaks of choice, responsibility, and the quiet power held in every moment. There once was a young student who grew weary of his teacher's calm and seemingly perfect answers. He believed the old master only spoke in riddles to appear wise, and he resolved to expose what he thought was mere cleverness. After days of planning, he devised a test. One morning, he caught a small sparrow in the garden. The bird trembled softly in his cupped hands, its tiny heart beating fast against his palms. He hid it behind his back and approached the teacher, who sat peacefully in the morning light, reading. "Master," the student said, excitement barely concealed, "I have a question for you." The teacher looked up, eyes gentle, already sensing the student's intention. "Please," he said, "ask." The young man stepped closer. "I am holding a bird," he said. "Tell me, is it alive or dead?" He felt certain of his victory. If the teacher said alive, he would crush the bird. If he said dead, he would release it. Either way, the master would be proven wrong. The teacher remained silent for a long moment. His gaze rested calmly on the student, as though seeing far beyond the trick itself. Then he spoke quietly. "The answer," he said, "is in your hands." The student froze. In that instant, his elaborate plan dissolved. He felt the bird's fragile life pulsing against his skin and understood. The outcome had never depended on the teacher's wisdom. It had always rested within his own choice. Slowly, he brought his hands forward and opened them. The sparrow paused, then lifted itself into the open sky, disappearing into the trees. The Buddha taught that with our thoughts, we make the world. In every moment, we hold something precious, our actions, our words, our intentions. Life unfolds according to how we choose to hold what is placed in our care. We often look outward for answers, for permission, for certainty. Yet Zen points us back inward, again and again. True teachers do not give us solutions. They return us to our own responsibility, our own awareness, our own freedom. As you drift towards sleep now, rest with this knowing: much of life is already in your hands. And within that gentle responsibility, there is great peace. Let your breath soften. Let the mind grow quiet. And allow understanding to settle naturally, like the bird returning to the sky. Zen teacher Charlotte Jokobek once said, "We are always in choice, even when we think we are not." The small bird resting in the student's hands is a symbol of all those moments when we tell ourselves we have no options, no strength, no responsibility. Yet awareness itself always contains choice, and choice quietly carries responsibility within it. Look gently at a challenge you are facing now. Where might you be waiting for someone else to decide, to rescue, to give direction? What might shift if you recognize that the power to shape your response is already resting in your own hands? This does not mean you control the outer world. It means you are never without choice in how you meet it. The Buddha taught, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. Each thought, each intention, each small action is like the student's decision with the bird, a moment where life or harm, clarity or confusion, compassion or indifference can arise. The answer is always here, quietly waiting in our hands. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, feel the weight of the choices you carry, not as a burden, but as the dignity of being conscious. As the Buddha reminded us, no one can walk the path for us. We must walk it ourselves. The bird flew free not because of the teacher's wisdom, but because of the student's choice. In recognizing our own capacity to choose kindness over cruelty, truth over fear, we begin to trust ourselves more deeply. And now, let us move onward into another teaching, one that reveals the quiet power hidden inside ordinary life. At Ryumen Temple, a well-known Zen master was offering teachings to a large gathering of students. The hall was filled with stillness, the kind that settles when many minds listen together. Soft evening light slipped through the paper windows, resting gently on the wooden floor. As the master spoke of awareness in daily living, a sudden disturbance rose near the back of the hall. A priest from another sect, troubled by jealousy and rivalry, pushed forward through the crowd. His movements were sharp, his breath tense. The master paused and looked toward him calmly. "What is this noise that interrupts our evening?" he asked, his voice steady and free of irritation. The priest stood tall and spoke loudly. "The founder of our tradition," he declared, "possessed great miraculous powers. Standing on one side of a river, he could write sacred words through the air onto paper held on the other bank. Can you do such a miracle?" A hush spread through the room. Some students leaned forward, expecting a display of supernatural ability. Others waited to see how their teacher would respond. The master smiled softly. "Perhaps your teacher could do such things," he said. "But that is not the way of Zen. My miracle is simple. When I am hungry, I eat. When I am thirsty, I drink." Silence filled the hall again, a deeper silence this time. The priest, seeking wonders beyond ordinary life, found himself standing before a teaching about presence itself. The Buddha once taught that our future is shaped by what we do in the present. True spiritual power is not found in spectacle, but in intimacy with what is real. Why do we search for miracles elsewhere? Zen teaches that we often overlook the sacred simplicity of being alive, imagining awakening to be something distant or dramatic. Yet awareness itself is the miracle. Breath moving without effort, the heart beating faithfully, sound arriving and passing away. These are wonders beyond any magic. Suzuki Roshi said, "You are perfect just as you are, and you could use a little improvement." This gentle paradox reminds us that we do not need to become special. We only need to fully inhabit this moment. Tonight, as you drink water or eat your next meal, can you sense the miracle in that simple act? The way life sustains itself without asking for praise or recognition. As the Buddha taught, the way is not found in the sky. It is found here, in the heart of ordinary living. Now let us turn toward a story of freedom, the freedom that comes from releasing the need for approval. In a quiet monastery garden, where cherry blossoms drifted softly like snow, a young student sat beside his teacher beneath an old maple tree. Twilight colored the sky in gentle hues, and the air was still. The student spoke after a long silence. "Master," he said, "when I was younger, I wanted my family to be proud of me. I worked hard, hoping they would love me more. Were you ever like this?" The teacher nodded. "Yes," he replied gently. "Very much so." The student hesitated, then asked, "Why did you want their pride so deeply?" The master reflected for a moment. I wanted their approval so I could feel worthy of love, he said. And beneath that, I wanted permission to love myself. The student felt these words settle quietly in his chest. One day, the master continued, I realized I could ask a different question. What if I no longer needed permission from others to accept myself? What if my worth did not depend on approval at all? The garden grew darker as stars appeared. That was when my true practice began, the master said. Not seeking something outside, but discovering what had always been complete. The student asked softly, did the desire for approval ever disappear? The master smiled. The ego still speaks, he said, but I learned to watch it gently, like fireflies appearing and fading. Their light no longer decides my peace. So you stopped caring what others thought? The student asked. I still listened, the master replied. But their opinions became like weather, passing conditions, not the ground of my happiness. He looked out into the darkened garden. And when I released myself from that invisible prison, he said, I discovered a freedom deeper than any praise could offer. Let these words rest within you now. Let the breath soften. Let the mind become quiet. Nothing more is needed. The love the master had once searched for in the eyes of others was quietly revealed to have been living within him from the very beginning. Nothing had been missing. Nothing had ever been lacking. The Buddha gently reminds us that when we truly love ourselves, we no longer harm ourselves through harsh thoughts, careless actions, or unkind choices. This insight touches the very root of suffering. Much of our pain arises from the belief that love must be earned, proven, justified through achievement or approval. Yet Zen points us toward a radical truth. Self-love is not a prize waiting at the end of effort. It is our natural inheritance. We are complete not because of what we do, but because we are. From childhood, many of us absorbed quiet messages suggesting that love depends on behavior, success, or pleasing others. Over time, we learn to speak to ourselves in the same conditional way. Criticism became familiar. Acceptance felt distant. Modern life strengthens this illusion, whispering again and again that fulfillment exists somewhere outside us. And so, much of our inner energy is spent managing opinions, adjusting our true expression, seeking validation where it can never fully satisfy. But when unconditional self-acceptance begins to awaken, something softens. We can receive kindness without hunger. We can meet criticism without collapse. Because our sense of worth no longer depends on what comes or goes. The Buddha once said that no one in the universe is more deserving of our love and care than ourselves. This is not self-indulgence. It is recognition of reality. As you rest here now, notice the quiet awareness that is listening to these words. This presence is unchanged by praise or blame. It does not improve or diminish. It remains open and clear, like the sky itself. What would it be like to treat this awareness with gentleness? With patience? With the same compassion you might offer a child learning to walk, or a dear friend in pain? Hatred is never healed by more hatred, and self-judgment cannot heal self-judgment. Only kindness allows true transformation to unfold. When we discover this love within, we realize the freedom we once sought through others was always beating softly in our own hearts. And now, another story emerges, one that reveals the difference between spiritual appearance and genuine understanding. In a great mountain monastery, where monks followed ancient rhythms of meditation and work. Mornings began in silence. Before sunrise, the halls filled with stillness. Afterward, monks moved quietly to gardens, kitchens, and study rooms, each task performed with mindful care. One morning, the aged abbot walked through the grounds, his steps calm, his presence gentle yet piercing. Near the meditation hall, he noticed a young monk sitting alone in the shade. "Brother," the abbot asked softly, "where have all the virtuous ones gone?" The question sounded simple, almost casual. But in Zen, simple words often open deep doors. The young monk, confident in his understanding, replied quickly, "They have gone to work." In that answer lived an assumption that virtue resides in activity, that practice and rest are separate, that wisdom wears a visible form. Without warning, the abbot removed a small knife from his robe. He did not threaten. He did not raise his voice. Instead, with complete calm, he exposed his own neck and placed the knife in the monk's trembling hands. "My duties are heavy," the abbot said gently. "If you would cut off my head, it would ease my burden greatly." The monk froze in terror, unable to see beyond the surface of the request, unable to touch the depth beneath the words. He dropped the knife and fled. The abbot calmly retrieved the blade, returned it to his robe, and continued his walk, unchanged. This story is not about violence. It is about vision. Zen reminds us how easily the mind confuses ideas with realization. We collect teachings, memorize phrases, and feel certain we understand. Yet when life asks for living wisdom, fear appears. The monk knew where virtuous people went, but he did not know how virtue responds. True compassion is not always comfortable. Sometimes it cuts through roles, concepts, even cherished spiritual identities. A Zen master once said, "If you meet the Buddha on the road, let the Buddha go." Any fixed idea becomes an obstacle. Genuine understanding moves freely, responding to the moment, unburdened by appearances. As you rest tonight, consider your own assumptions. Where do you divide life into sacred and ordinary? Practice and rest? Helping and being helped? Every moment invites awakened response. In Zen, we cultivate great openness, the willingness to release even our most treasured understandings, not from doubt but from trust. And now, as the mind softens, and the body grows heavy, allow these stories to settle like leaves on still water. Nothing needs to be solved. Nothing needs to be achieved. The path continues, quietly, naturally, leading us into the next teaching, the lesson of deep water, and the truth revealed only when we stop resisting. For now, breathe, rest, and let sleep arrive like a gentle bell in the night. Beside a clear mountain river, where water sang softly as it moved over smooth stones, a solitary hermit lived in quiet practice. For many years he had chosen simplicity. The rhythm of flowing water and turning seasons became his teachers, reflecting the movements of his own mind. One morning, as pale sunlight filtered through leaves and the air carried the scent of the mountains, a young seeker arrived. His clothes were worn from travel. His eyes carried longing. He bowed deeply. "Master," he said, "I wish to become your student." The hermit looked at him calmly and asked only one question. "Why?" The young man paused. After a moment, he answered with sincerity, "Because I wish to find the divine." Without warning, the hermit rose, grasped the seeker firmly, and guided him toward the river. Before words could form, cold water closed over the young man's head. Beneath the surface, time disappeared. There was no philosophy, no belief, no longing for enlightenment. There was only one thing: the need to breathe. The body struggled. The lungs burned. Every thought dissolved into a single urgency. And then, the hermit lifted him back into the air. Gasping, shaking, water streaming from his face, the young man knelt on the riverbank. When his breath finally settled, the hermit spoke gently. "When you were beneath the water," he asked, "what did you want more than anything?" The answer came without thought. "Air." The hermit nodded. "Return home," he said softly. "Come back when you seek truth with the same necessity." And with that he turned away. This teaching is not about violence. It is about honesty. The Buddha reminded us that wisdom spreads like a single candle lighting many others. But the flame must be real. True awakening does not arise from curiosity alone. It arises from urgency. The seeker desired truth as an idea, not yet as life itself. We often approach the path gently, carefully, keeping our comforts close. But transformation asks something deeper. It asks us to release who we think we are. Not as punishment, but as freedom. The river represents ordinary awareness, where we skim the surface of life. Being submerged symbolizes going beneath habit, beneath identity, beneath illusion. Tonight, as your body rests and breath moves quietly, ask yourself gently, what do I truly seek? Is it a preference or a necessity? The Buddha taught that the path is not somewhere distant. It lives in the heart. Awakening comes not from collecting experiences, but from offering our whole being to this moment. And now, another story drifts into awareness, one that speaks of identity, change, and the mystery of consciousness. Long ago, a sage lived simply, walking among bamboo groves and listening to wind and water. One afternoon, he lay down beneath a flowering tree and rested. As warmth and fragrance surrounded him, his awareness softened. And he dreamed. In the dream, he was no longer human. He was a butterfly. He moved effortlessly through sunlight, wings light as breath. There was no memory of being a person, no name, no past, only color, movement, and freedom. He was not a man dreaming of a butterfly. He was fully butterfly. Then slowly he awoke. Lying beneath the tree once more, he felt the solidity of his body, the return of thought. Yet a question remained, gentle and profound. Was I a man dreaming of being a butterfly? Or am I now a butterfly dreaming of being a man? This was not a puzzle to solve. It was a doorway. Buddhist wisdom teaches that all conditioned states are impermanent. Waking, dreaming, sleeping, each arises and fades. Identity flows like water. Forms appear and disappear. Which one is truly you? Zen invites us to see that all identities are waves on a vast ocean of awareness. The waves are real, but they are never separate from the water. Just as clouds move through the sky without altering the sky itself. The sage's dream reminds us that the boundaries we place on ourselves may be far more fluid than we imagine. What we believe to be solid may be temporary. What we fear losing may never have been fixed. To study the path is to study the self. And to study the self is to gently let it dissolve. Now, as your breathing slows, as the mind loosens its grip, allow these stories to drift like clouds. There is nothing to understand, nothing to achieve. Only rest. Only presence. Only the quiet awareness in which all dreams arise and fade. And from this stillness, sleep may come naturally, like a butterfly settling on a leaf, silent, weightless, and free. As we look more deeply into what we call the self, something subtle begins to soften. The solid image we carry of who I am slowly loosens its grip. What once seemed fixed starts to feel more like mist at dawn, present, yet never held. The Buddha spoke of this gently, saying that form is empty, and emptiness is not apart from form. What appears solid is already changing. What seems to vanish was never separate from presence. The man and the butterfly, the dreamer and the dream, each appears fully, sincerely, while it is here. And each fades naturally, making room for what follows. Nothing needs to be forced. Nothing needs to be preserved. Now, turn your attention inward without effort. Notice how much of your identity is woven from roles you play, memories you revisit, stories you quietly repeat. See how fluid they are, how easily they shift. For just this moment, you loosen your hold on being any particular kind of person. What remains? As you drift gently between waking and dreaming tonight, you may remember an ancient question whispered through time. Who is dreaming whom? Can you rest in the knowing that whether you appear as a worker or a wanderer, a thinker or a dreamer, the awareness in which all of this unfolds remains open, steady, and free? All things change. This is not a problem to solve, but a truth to rest within. The man dreams of being a butterfly. The butterfly dreams of being a man. Yet the dreaming itself, the quiet space where experience appears, remains vast, untouched, like the open sky. And now, as one teaching dissolves, another gently rises. This next story speaks of reaching for what cannot be held, and discovering truth in the most unexpected way. In a quiet monastery garden, where cherry blossoms drifted softly on the morning air, Master Seo sat beside one of his most devoted students. The young monk had studied for many years. His mind was full of teachings, words about impermanence, ideas about the illusion of self, long discussions of emptiness and form. He could explain the teachings clearly, debate them skillfully, recite them with confidence. And yet, something felt distant. The words hovered in his mind, never quite touching his heart. That morning, with sincere humility, he bowed before his teacher. "Master," he said softly, "I understand that all things arise and pass away. I know nothing has a fixed, separate existence. But still, it feels like I am only holding ideas. Please, help me grasp emptiness itself." Master Seo looked at him kindly. He had seen this longing many times before, the effort to reach truth through thought alone. "Show me," the master said gently, "how you would hold emptiness." The monk paused. Then, slowly, he cupped his hands in the air, as though cradling something delicate and unseen. His breath grew careful, his face earnest. "There," he said quietly, "I am holding emptiness." The master observed the empty space between the monk's palms and smiled. "That will not do," he said softly. "You are only holding air and giving it a name." The monk's shoulders fell. Confusion and disappointment passed through him. "Then please," he asked, "show me the right way." Without warning, Master Seo reached forward and firmly tugged the monk's nose. "Ouch!" The monk cried out, Startled, his eyes filling with tears, the master released him and laughed gently. "That," he said, "is how you grasp emptiness." The monk stood stunned, rubbing his nose. The sensation was sharp, undeniable, real. And yet, even as he noticed it, the pain was already changing, already fading. It had appeared suddenly, existed fully, and was now dissolving without leaving a trace. In that moment, there were no concepts, no theories, no questions, only direct experience. Form just as it was, empty just as it is. The monk understood, not with thought, but with being. Emptiness was not the absence of experience. It was the nature of experience itself. Everything arises. Everything passes. Nothing needs to be held. Zen teaches us not to replace living truth with ideas about truth. When we try to grasp life with the mind, it slips away. When we allow ourselves to experience directly, understanding unfolds on its own. Thoughts arise. Where do they come from? Where do they go? Sensations move through the body. Sounds appear and disappear. Even the sense of I flows like a river, never the same, yet never gone. This emptiness is not cold or hollow. It is spacious, alive, and gently creative. The silent field in which everything dances. The Buddha reminded us that all conditioned things are impermanent, not as an idea, but as an invitation to see clearly. Tonight, as you lie here, allow thoughts to come and go without following them. Feel sensations rise and fade without naming them. Sense the open space that holds it all. You do not need to understand emptiness. You are already resting within it. And now, as your breath slows and the body softens, we turn gently toward another story, one about trust and the quiet courage to release our grip. This is the story of the crystal river. In the depths of a clear, flowing river, where the water moved like a steady breath, there lived a small village of creatures. The current carried the wisdom of distant mountains and unseen seas. Yet every creature clung tightly to stones and roots along the riverbed. "Hold on," the elders warned. "The current is dangerous." And so, for generations they held on. It will carry you into places you do not know. Safety lives in staying exactly where you are. That is what the elders warned. Yet among the many small creatures clinging to stones along the riverbed, one grew quietly tired. Day after day he watched the water pass above him. It moved without strain, without hesitation, clear, steady, and alive. While others spoke only of fear and effort, he felt a question forming deep within him. What would it feel like to trust? One morning, his voice trembled gently as he spoke. "I am weary of holding on," he said. "I cannot see where the river leads, but I sense that it knows its way. If I continue clinging, I fear I will fade from boredom before I ever truly live." A hush fell across the riverbed. Gasps followed. "Foolish one," they cried. "The current will smash you against the rocks. You will be broken, scattered, lost." But the small creature had already made peace with his choice. He took one last look at the familiar stones, the roots he had gripped for so long, and gently released his hold. At once, the river gathered him. Just as the others feared, his body was carried downward, rolling against stone after stone. There was pain, sharp and unfamiliar. Yet something unexpected happened. He did not fight. He did not reach for another anchor. He allowed the river to move him completely. And slowly, almost tenderly, the water lifted him. The rocks fell away. The tumbling ceased. Now he was no longer beneath the current. He was within it, carried effortlessly, held without force. As he flowed onward, creatures downstream looked up in wonder. One of their own moved through the water with grace, as if flying. "A miracle!" they cried. "A savior has come." Hearing them, the flowing creature felt only compassion. "I am no savior," he called gently. "The river lifts us all, if we stop clinging. Our work is not to hold the bottom, but to trust the journey." But his words dissolved into the water. They clung tighter, and later told stories of a miracle they had witnessed, never realizing the river was still flowing around them. The Buddha taught that we lose only what we cling to. This quiet truth rests at the heart of our lives. We grasp for certainty, believing it will protect us. Yet in gripping what must change, we create the suffering we hope to escape. Life moves like water, always changing, never still. When we resist, we grow tired. When we trust, we are carried. Now, as you rest here, notice where your own hands may still be holding tightly. A worry about tomorrow, a memory from yesterday, an idea of who you must be. You do not need to push anything away. Simply soften your grip. As the Buddha said, let go of what has passed. Let go of what may come. Let go of what is happening now. The river you feared is the same river that brings you home. And now, as the mind grows quiet, another teaching arises, a story of returning to what is real when fear appears strongest. Long ago, during a time of endless conflict, a warrior found himself captured after defeat. His weapons were taken, his armor removed. That night, he was placed in a narrow stone cell. The door closed with a heavy sound. Darkness settled. His thoughts raced ahead. Interrogation, king of death. His breath grew shallow. His heart thundered. Sleep felt impossible. Hours passed. Then, in the quiet, a memory surfaced, the voice of his Zen teacher. Tomorrow is not real. Only now exists. At first, the words felt distant. But slowly, the warrior noticed his breath. In this moment, he was breathing. He felt the straw beneath him. He heard wind outside the cell. In this moment, no torture was happening. No execution. Only presence. The future revealed itself as thought, nothing more. A calm settled in his body. His breathing softened. For the first time, he smiled. Within minutes, he slept peacefully. The Buddha taught that life is lived only here, not in imagined suffering, not in feared futures, only now. And now, you are here, breathing. Nothing more is required. Let your thoughts drift like clouds. Let the river carry you. Sleep is already arriving. Planning and preparation have their place in life. They help us move wisely through the world. But when planning hardens into constant worry, it quietly steals our peace. Worry pulls the mind away from what is real and carries it into imagined futures that do not yet exist. A gentle Zen teacher once reminded us that because everything is impermanent, every moment remains open. The future is not fixed. It unfolds through countless causes and conditions, most of which we cannot see or control. The worried mind believes that difficulty must continue, that pain will grow, that fear is certain. But impermanence whispers something softer. Nothing stays the same. The warrior in his cell could not truly know what the next day would bring. Perhaps rescue, perhaps mercy, perhaps an unexpected turn beyond imagination. The Buddha spoke simply, "The past is already gone. The future has not yet arrived. There is only this moment to live." This teaching does not ask us to abandon responsibility. It invites us to notice where our attention has wandered and to guide it gently back. In Zen practice, we cultivate beginner's mind, meeting each moment as it is, without the weight of expectation or fear. When we fully arrive in the present, we often discover a quiet strength already here, a clarity that worry never reveals. Nothing around the warrior changed. The same cell, the same uncertainty. Yet when his attention returned to the now, fear softened into peace. This same transformation is available to you. Tonight, if thoughts of tomorrow arise, do not push them away. Simply notice. Ask softly, what is actually happening right now? Feel the breath entering and leaving your body. Notice the weight of your body resting. Sense the air touching your skin. These simple experiences anchor you in reality rather than imagination. The Buddha taught, do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Place the mind gently in the present moment. Here, even a prison opens. As this understanding settles, another story emerges, one that points to a truth so close it often goes unseen. This is the story of the fish and the ocean. Far beneath the surface of a vast, shimmering sea, a young fish swam restlessly through familiar waters. Light filtered down in soft blues and greens. Coral gardens swayed gently. Life moved in quiet harmony. Yet the young fish felt unsettled. He had heard others speak of something called the ocean. They spoke with reverence, as if it were the most important thing of all. But no matter where he swam, he could not find it. At last, he approached an ancient sea turtle whose shell carried the marks of many journeys. "Elder," the fish asked, "everyone speaks of the ocean, but I cannot find it anywhere. What is this ocean they speak of?" The turtle regarded him kindly. "Little one," he said, "the ocean is what surrounds you at every moment." The fish darted left and right, upward and down. "I see only water, plants, stones, and other fish. Where is this ocean?" The turtle settled calmly. "Of course you cannot see it," he replied. "You were born within it. You breathe it. You move through it. One day you will return fully to it. It flows through your gills and around your body so naturally that it has become invisible." The fish grew quiet. "You mean this water itself is the ocean?" "Yes," said the turtle. "You have never been separate from it, not even for a moment. Like the fish, we live immersed in what is most sacred, yet often fail to notice it because it is too close. We search for meaning far away, believing truth must be dramatic or distant. Yet it is here, in breath, in awareness, in simple being. The changing seasons, the rhythm of the heart, the rise and fall of thoughts, all expressions of the same living flow. This flow cannot be grasped because we are not outside it. We are expressions of it. The ancient teachers called this the way, not a path we walk toward, but the unfolding that moves through us. The way breathes when you breathe. It listens when you listen. It rests when you rest. The Buddha said, "Look within. You are not separate from what you seek." As you lie here now, feel the breath move without effort. Sense the quiet intelligence that keeps your heart beating. You do not need to understand it. You already belong to it. And now, as the mind grows softer, we turn gently toward another teaching. A story about mastery and the quiet difference between control and true presence. This is the lesson of the archer and the bridge. The old master listened quietly, ancient eyes reflecting calm rather than challenge. He nodded once, accepting without a word. The young archer wasted no time. He chose a distant target, set his feet firmly, and drew his bow with practiced ease. The arrow flew straight and clean, landing precisely at the center. Without pause, a second arrow followed, splitting the first with astonishing accuracy. The air seemed to hold its breath. The young man turned, confidence rising like heat from stone. "There," he said, "now show me your skill." The master looked at the target, then at the archer, and smiled softly. Instead of lifting his bow, he gestured toward the mountain path. "Come," he said quietly. "There is another place." Certain of his superiority, the young archer followed. They climbed higher, the air thinning, the path narrowing. At last, they reached a deep chasm, wide, silent, and shadowed. Across it lay a single fallen log, weathered and narrow, swaying gently over the void. Far below, the darkness waited. Without hesitation, the master stepped onto the log. His movements were slow, balanced, untroubled. At the center, where the log dipped and trembled, he paused. Raising his bow as if in his own garden, he released the arrow. It crossed the empty space and struck true. Then the master returned calmly to solid ground. "Now," he said gently, "your turn." The young archer stepped forward and looked down. His breath caught. His hands grew damp. His legs weakened. The bow that once felt effortless now trembled in his grasp. Fear rose, and with it, all his practiced confidence dissolved. He could not step onto the log. The master watched with compassion. "You have trained the hands," he said softly, "but the mind that releases the arrow remains untrained." The Buddha taught that the mind shapes all experience. Skill without inner steadiness depends on perfect conditions. True mastery does not. The young archer's ability had not vanished. It had simply never been rooted. When safety disappeared, so did his balance. Zen practice does not promise comfort. It offers presence. Not the absence of fear, but the ability to remain centered within it. The master had not shown greater accuracy, only greater stillness. One arrow released from calm awareness carries more truth than many fired from pride. Life itself is the bridge, uncertain, narrow, requiring balance moment by moment. Not by gripping tightly, but by trusting the center within. As this understanding settles, another teaching rises gently, like a memory returning home. In a stone quarry beneath tall mountains, a master sculptor walked among marble blocks. Sunlight warmed the stone. Dust shimmered in the air. With trained hands, he touched each surface. "There is a hero here," he would say, "a saint there." For decades, he had shaped beauty from stone. Yet one longing remained. He had searched his entire life for the perfect stone to carve the Buddha. Across many lands, through countless quarries, he searched. Still, the stone did not appear. Weary, he visited a small Zen temple. In the courtyard stood a simple well, ringed with moss and silence. "Master," the sculptor said, bowing, "I have searched 40 years for the stone that will reveal the Buddha." The priest smiled gently. "No problem," he said. Hope stirred. "Where?" the sculptor asked. The priest pointed quietly to the well. The sculptor leaned over and looked down. In the still water, he saw his own face, lined by years of seeking. The Buddha taught, "If you cannot find truth where you stand, where will you go to look?" The sculptor understood. What he sought had never been missing. The perfect material was awareness itself. Zen teaches that we search endlessly outward, forgetting to look at the one who searches. The Buddha nature is not hidden in distant circumstances. It looks back at us from every moment of presence. Tonight, as your body rests and the breath moves freely, can you sense this truth? Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be found. You are already home. As my voice fades, let your awareness remain. Feel the softness of letting go, the ease of no longer seeking. The calm you feel has always been here, like a quiet river beneath thought. Rest now in that gentle flow. Sleep comes naturally when nothing is held. May you sleep deeply. May you wake gently.